Hey, Kimberly and company reached out, I think it was either October or November of last year, and then we were signing papers in January. But we've been meeting for an entire year, so I'm really grateful that we're able to do this because A, it's been too long. But B, also, we want to make sure that our sessions are going to be really impactful for y'all, and that this is not just me simply, doing a song and dance, but that we're going to be able to talk in a way that's going to be most effective for your success and your growth. So without further ado, I want to share my screen. Let's see in here. All right. So today, topic number one is going to be creating a budget. Now, again, if y'all are new, the way I like labeling some of my slides is what people don't do. So from my own farming experience and then also consulting other farmers, one thing that I've noticed that have been really detrimental to any farm business or potential farm business is a lack of creating a budget. So for my title, I have people who don't want to succeed at farming don't create a budget. It's pretty important. A lot of these folks, they will overspend, just about always overspend because they're not creating a budget. Also, they're not really understanding and assessing what their needs are. And that's part of the reason why that overspending is happening. And they don't usually find themselves holding themselves accountable to their actions, right? It's super duper important that when you're creating a farm business, and some of y'all, from what I've gathered over the couple sessions, it's primarily hobbyist. Some of y'all want to transition out of hobby farming and generating a genuine income, maybe not full time, but at least something to help pay the bills. And so being able to have a budget is going to be important. So one thing that I've noticed with farmers in my own experience is that it's so easy, so easy. I just get really excited about, buying cattle. For me, buying pigs. Love pigs. Love pigs. And then kind of figuring out, how you're going to make it work along the way. I have had to really sit some of my clients down when it came to budgeting because if they kept buying another animal, if they kept wasting more money, not only was it going to be detrimental to their farm, it was also going to be detrimental to their families. I went to a conference out in Illinois last year. I think it was the Illinois Homestead Conference, something like that. And there was a couple, they raised goats and they were considering, doing dairy goat soap. And so they asked like, hey, pork rind, like we really were, want to trying to make a profit on dairy goats. And so here's what we're thinking is we want to do goat soap. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So how much are you going to charge for goat soap? Oh, well, we're going to charge $3 a bar. Now, if y'all don't know anything about homemade soaps, homemade soaps using dairy products, goat's milk, cow's milk, some weirdos are using sheep's milk. Um, $3 a bar actually is kind of low. You can go to some of these boutiques online, people who have really good email marketing and online platforms. There are a lot of natural cosmetics, skincare products. They're selling goat milk soap for up to sometimes $10 a bar. And these jokers want to charge three. So stopped them right there, said, hey, that's going to be really low. Where are you getting your numbers from? Oh, the farmer, we were at the event and there's this other person, they're selling it for $3. And that is cardinal rule or cardinal sin number one for a lot of farmers. Basing your pricing, basing your budgeting off of someone else without understanding their context. It is so important that when you're budgeting, figuring out how much things are going to cost you in terms of your expenses, that you're not going based on what Billy Bob down the road is doing, right? You want to look at your own costs because you have a context that's unique to you. For some farmers, they have certain connections where they can get stuff for free or at a reduced cost. So if they give you their costs and they're not sharing how, oh, well, it cost me this much, but I'm getting at a reduced rate because I'm driving over there to pick it up, a product, an ingredient, whatever it might be. So, that's really important that you're looking at creating a budget based on your actual expenses, your local area expenses, and what you want to produce. So when it comes to making a budget, we want to make sure we write a good budget, that we're also being considerate of boundaries, and we're also having people in our lives that hold us accountable. Again, I mentioned how not creating a budget can be stressful on a family. That same family that wanted to do goat milk soap, you know, talking a little bit further in the conversation, kind of figuring out, why are you wanting to do an idea that is not going to be profitable given the goals that they wanted? And the husband made a comment. He said, well, like I, we're paying $400 in hay a month, and I'm getting to a point where I don't know how I feel about this enterprise anymore. Just raising goats, not even the goat soap, but just raising goats. And so, but I don't feel like I can share this with my wife. Now his wife was right there, right there beside him. So, wife also started to feel some kind of way about that, and you can see in both their eyes that they had this sense of shame of I can't really share how I feel about our budget because I'm too scared to ruffle feathers. I'm too scared to maybe start an argument that I don't intend on starting. I do have concerns, but I don't know how to communicate those concerns. So, if you're in a situation where, and this applies even to Dexter's, where your spouse does not feel like they have the liberty or freedom of sharing their financial concerns when it comes to raising Dexter's, then there is a problem. And it's not just a them problem, it's also a you problem. I can't tell you how many farmers that I've met who got divorced because they didn't feel like they could talk about money, right? And in reality, the problem is not so much they can't talk about money. We can talk about uh, how most people were not taught from their parents to value money, or to how to navigate with money, how to not use debt, or how to use debt responsibly. Most people did not have parents that talked about money. My mom, I'm grateful she sat me down at a young age. I had my a first bank account at, I think, 16. Was like, don't ever get into debt unless you have to get into debt, and I evolved from her teachings into my own teachings about money and finances. I've been in debt before and I've become debt free because I realized that debt was a form of bondage for me that I needed to get away from, especially when it came to student loans and consumer debt. Um, and so for me, I've seen so many families not function properly and become dysfunctional because they're too scared to talk about things that are important or are concerns to them. So again, if your spouse, partner has been maybe hinting at the fact that they do have some concerns, whether they're doing it gently or maybe a little rude, again, try to read in between the lines, sift through the words and get the meat, take out the bone to get the meat, and understand that there is a concern. So part of the reason why I want to go through this is because I don't want farming to affect your marriage. I don't want farm in a negative way. I don't want farming to affect the financial future of your children in a negative way, right? I want these all to be net positives. I want farming to be a net positive experience for you, even if you're kind of doing it mostly as a hobbyist, but you at least want to figure out ways of covering the costs. No problem. That's still a net positive in my opinion, because you're not allowing a farm enterprise to be a detriment, right? I told that family, like, hey, you're spending so much money on goats, you really could be putting all that money in savings. Well, have you thought about that? Right? You're getting zero returns on raising goats. And for dairy milk, what's to say you can't put 400 a month in a savings account or in an investment account portfolio? Like seriously, genuine question. And I never ask these questions to be rude or mean, but I'm not afraid to ask a question to challenge maybe people's beliefs, not out of disrespect, but to just see, do you really believe what you believe? Are you really confident about what you believe? Why do you believe what you believe? Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Just to understand your reasoning and to see if that person actually has good sound reasoning behind it. So, as we're going into breakout sessions, I do have some questions I want you to consider. And if this is your first time here, the breakout sessions are basically where you're going to look at three questions. You'll have 2 minutes if you want to speak. You'll have 2 minutes to answer one or two of those questions, and then kind of give your experience or ask a question to the group. So again, we want to create safe spaces where we can be comfortable saying, hey, I actually don't know what to do in this situation. Can you help me? So, questions for tonight. And I'm going to butcher these questions a little bit because my screen is messed up. What are your financial goals and how will your budget help achieve them? Number two, how will you scale your business while minimizing debt? And number three, how can budgeting improve operational efficiency and reduce costs? So when we're thinking about this, the first one, really consider what are your actual financial goals, not just so much for your farm, but also for your family, right? Because it's so easy for farming to become a sinkhole where any free money that you had, any flexible money that you had, just gets sucked into the farm, and the farm is not actually returning anything back to you, right? So we don't necessarily want that. So what financial goals, both in farming and business, and even for your family, are you trying to achieve? And how can having boundaries actually help in achieving those goals when it comes to financial boundaries? For number two, really think about how you're going to budget in a way that's going to help minimize debt. In farming, most cases, it's very common to use debt, leverage debt, to be able to have certain equipment or certain fencing. I'm not opposed to debt. Now, I come from the Dave Ramsey crowd of being financially responsible. But after I came out of that journey, I realized like, oh, debt actually is a great, if I'm leveraging it right, actually can be a huge benefit to of my overall business. So that is not inherently evil. I don't believe that. If you choose to believe that, that's totally fine. No shame. We can just, you know, agree to disagree. And that's totally okay. I find both points to be valid. But what I will say is that I've met too many people who got into too much debt too quick and they didn't have a good business plan in mind, they didn't have a good budget in mind, and because of that, they're now having to pay back not just the debt that they owe, but also the interest. A lot of people don't realize that it's the interest that kills you, right? And what percent that interest might be, that adds up. It constantly adds up. We got people, even like people who are paying student loans. Their student loans were only $50,000 when they first started, but they let the interest accrued for a decade, 2 decades. And now they owe hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Because they allowed interest to increase. So again, how will you scale your business while minimizing debt is going to be really important. And then number three, I don't think needs a lot of explanation, but just really being considerate about operational efficiency. So I really am one of the people who believes that through scarcity, through limitations can come innovation, right? So even if you have a limited budget, what can you do that's innovative, that's creative, right? How can you turn something that, all right, we got a small budget, but how can you make it work and make it an advantage to your farm business? So I am going to stop sharing. I want to put these questions in the chat, and then I'm going to put y'all into breakout rooms. All right, looks like everybody is back. So, yeah, I would like to know what y'all learned during your breakout session. So feel free, and this is a free for all. So if you've learned anything from the session, or maybe you got a really cool tip and you want to share it, or you have something that's worked for you and you want to share with the group, now be the time to do so. So just speak up when you're ready, and you got 2 minutes per person.
I've got one for 15 seconds. I think my favorite tidbit was sometimes you got to eat your mistakes, literally.
Amen. Amen. Yes. Freezer camp's the best camp. Freezer camp's the best camp. Good. I like that, Michelle. I like that a lot. Anybody else?
A discussion that Rebecca had a really good tip. Uh, if you lose your bull, you don't have the money to get another one. AI, and she took a course that sounds really interesting. I'd be interested in that because it is hard to find a another bull replacement. That might be a savings down the road. That's all I got.
Thanks for sharing. And what's your name? You have it at
Laura?
Samsung. Laura. Nice to
Yes,
meet you, Laura.
thank you.
Um, really good comment. ADCA. Y'all heard Laura. We're going to get some semen straws. We're going to get some semen straws. All right. Who else got a really cool tidbit for cost savings or to budget?
I'll
Anybody?
share. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but we keep our finances for the farm separate from our personal finances. So I'll have just a separate checking account for Moonshine Ridge that I do for my personal account. So if I want to buy a new stock trailer and the money's not in that account, I don't dip into my own personal money to pay for it. That holds me personally accountable for what I spend. So when that amount kind of dwindles, I know, okay, who's out there for sale? Who needs to get butchered? So I got some meat for sale and bring that money back up.
Smart. Smart. And you actually beat me to the punch on one thing that I want to talk about, which is if you don't have good boundaries between your farm accounts and your personal accounts, and some of you might own other businesses, so this could relate to that too. Um, Initially, some people they leech off of the farm profits. And that's part of the reason why they're not able to scale up is because they're eating all of their profits, and they're not having good financial boundaries of, hey, either I'm doing this as a volunteer or I am paying myself, but I'm paying myself a specific amount for a specific amount of work. I'm not eating any additional profit. That profit is strictly staying with the business and going towards advancing the enterprise further for the next year or for the next quarter. So that usually happens. And then what happens after that is eventually, because the farm is not becoming successful because you're eating through profits, then the farm starts taking money out of your personal accounts because it's not thriving, it's not doing a good job. Maybe it's a marketing issue, maybe it's a budgeting issue. And I've met people who literally have drained their entire life savings to make their little farm hobby or farm enterprise work, and it failed them greatly. I do not want that to be you. So this is why we're having a conversation like this. All right. Anyone else got something they want to share that they learned during their session?
Hi, this is Susan from Diamond G Ranch.
Yeah,
And
it's
I just wanted to say that if anything, it was a little bit of confirmation in our little group talking about having a separate account to put your ranch money in. We have the Dexters, but we also have meat chickens, and we've been in this for only 4 years. And we are at the point now where we can work through that ranch account with chickens we've sold and beef we sold, and follow your all's example of going through the one account, not dipping into personal. So we appreciate that.
Thanks for sharing, Susan. Thanks for sharing. Cool. All right, last call. Anyone else got something they want to share from their session? All right, cool. Well, we can keep moving on. All right, here we go. All right, so you'll answer these questions. So we're going to go on to our next topic, which is producing a quality product. Again, one thing I see is that there are a lot of people who think they have the best thing since sliced bread. And when you start tasting their product, feeling their product, using their product, you're like, I really should have just gone to Walmart. I'm dead serious. Like I am dead serious. The myth is that, if you're doing something that's, home scale, then it should have a better quality to it. But what people fail to remember is that it's not just because it's home scale that might make it better, but it's that there's care, love, and also knowledge invested into creating a product with quality. So what I notice with a lot of folks is that they don't know how to create a product well, the product that you're interested in. Sometimes it's because they're missing key pieces of information. Other times, again, like we had talked about, I think in our last session, they don't have a mentor. So they're just kind of doing it themselves via YouTube. Everyone's got their own different recipe, formula, but they're missing certain steps to really have a good product. Or let's say, when it comes to raising Dexters, they're raising Dexters in a way that, maybe works for someone up in Minnesota, but you live down in Texas. It's going to be a very different experience. Also, the genetics might be a little bit different as well. So really being able to understand how to create the product well, the product that you want to create well is going to be important. Another thing that people really forget to do or fall into a trap on is they are either really cheap about creating something or meaning they start cutting corners. With Dexters, they start feeding cheap feed, not the best quality, or they overspend because they think by overspending, then they'll be able to create a product that is not only of good quality, but can give them or fetch them a big dollar. Where I see this fail on a lot of people the most, especially with livestock, is with poultry. If you've ever bought organic chicken feed, you will know how expensive organic chicken feed is compared to non-GMO and conventional feed. It's astronomically expensive. And a lot of these new and beginning homesteaders and farmers who want to start raising meat birds and even laying hens for profit start out with organic chicken feed because they believe, oh, I'm going to create the most healthiest, best chicken possible. But they were actually crunched the math. A whole bird for them, because they're usually not scale efficient, a whole bird, if they had to sell it to make a profit, would probably around $45 to $50. Who in the hell is going to buy a whole chicken for $45 to $50 if they live in a place like North Carolina? Now, in New York, maybe for an experience, but not the average consumer, no matter what state you live in. So again, like just because you overspend, whether it's in feed, whether it's in infrastructure, whether it's even, let's say, overspending on particular genetics. Um, all those things are great, but again, does it affect your bottom line in a way that makes you unprofitable? So things to really keep in mind is learn how to produce, learn your production needs, and actually build a strategy behind that. And then figuring out the balance between quality with cost effectiveness. It's not that producing a quality product, a good product, needs to be cheap, right? But there are good products that are cheap, are affordable. You can also produce a product that you can get a high market dollar value for. But if again, it gets to a point in some cases where you're putting so much in, but your ROI, your return on investment, is not conducive with that growth. Um, so when we're going in our breakout session, some questions I want you to consider and think about are this. How does your product's unique vision solve a key problem for your target audience? A lot of times farmers produce a product not because they're actually considering what their customers might want, but because they already have the product available to them, right? This is where we have to evolve from being hobbyists and homesteaders to really thinking of things like an actual farm business. the primary purpose of a business is not simply to make money, it's to be of service and to meet a need, right? So a lot of farmers, they're already producing a product for themselves and they just assume, oh, well, I'm pretty sure other people might be interested in it. So I'm just going to, sell it. But it's kind of haphazard. A lot of these people don't do market research, like we talked about a few weeks ago. They're not doing market research. They're not analyzing their actual markets. Some people, they want to sell these high dollar items or sell their products at a high price. But the issue ends up being, all right, you live in a very rural area. You're about 2, 3 hours away from a major city. Most of these people would rather spend their money, good money, on alcohol and cigarettes. Yeah, I said it. Alcohol and cigarettes than your $15 steak, your $20 steak, your $25 steak, right? Your immediate community might not actually be your ideal audience, right? So again, just because you live in a certain area doesn't necessarily mean that community is going to support a particular product if it's not actually meeting any need or desire that they have. So we don't want to base this on assumption. We actually want to use data, research, your own surveys to really assess whether or not a product's going to meet that person's problem or issue. People are more willing to buy a product if it's going to solve an issue than they are going to buy a product simply out of novelty, right? So that's going to be really important when you're marketing and thinking about what kind of product you're going to produce and of what quality. Number two, how have you accounted for initial costs and ongoing expenses while staying within budget? Again, this is another thing, going back to budgeting. You can produce a product, but if you're producing it at such a high quality that it becomes cost preventative or prohibitive, then you really should just be keeping it for yourself because trying to sell that product is not going to be the most effective thing for yourself. And number three, what's your long-term growth plan and how will you remain competitive in the market? So again, I am more about looking at a farm business from a 5, 10, 15, 20-year scope. Farming is not a get rich quick scheme. It just ain't. And if you've had success, please let me know. But it's not. It genuinely is not a get rich quick scheme. And the people who maybe had initial good success starting out with farming, 9 times out of 10, they went too big and they went too hard, and then they weren't able to pivot when things changed, and then they went bankrupt within 3 to 5 years. We don't want that for you. Slow growth is actually not bad growth. It's good growth. When you're growing slow, you're able to see things more steadily. You're not, worried about, okay, like, well, in order to grow quickly, I'm going to have to take out more debt. But you don't know if this is actually going to work. Again, proof of concept. Let's create a product or try a new product. Again, some of y'all want to go into meat. Maybe I should get also into dairy cows. I'll just do one. We already are interested in doing it for the family. Let's just see if people will buy milk. And some of your states, some of y'all, you live in states where raw milk is legal. Other of y'all, you live in a state where raw milk for human consumption is not legal, but you can market it as pet milk and humans will still drink it. It's just an inside joke, right? So that's an option. So start out small, and if it's successful, expand to the previous success. That's the best way. That is slow growth. When we look at some of the billionaires that exist in the world, one of them is Elon Musk, and you got another guy named Warren Buffett. Now, regardless of how you feel about them and how they accumulate their wealth, understand this. Elon Musk's net worth went skyrocketed, just really quick growth, but then it went down steep, came up, down steep, came up, down steep. Elon Musk's net worth just goes like this. It really sharp dips and high slopes. Look at Warren Buffett, look at Bill Gates' wealth. They had slow, steady growth. They didn't care if they were number one in the world when it came to being the richest person in the world. They just wanted steady, slow growth. And it's shown over time. So when we're thinking about building a business, think about steady growth. Doesn't always need to be slow, but it needs to be steady. Cool. Well, just like last time, I want to know, what did you learn? What were some things that were shared that you thought would be helpful to kind of think about or implement? Things that you felt were just encouraging to hear? Or if you have your own experience, shift, and hope, what were some things that you want to share with the rest of the group that you shared in your breakout room? So if you got something in mind, just feel free to speak up. And remember, you got 2 minutes.
Okay, so I'll be the not shy one. I think that the best thing, don't laugh at me, Kimberly. I think that the best thing that came out of ours was a resource that we shared. And so I just think it's worth sharing for everybody here. The number, cowmarketing.com. Apparently, a lady that's it's very successful and has free podcasts and a lot of free resources. So that got shared with our group. Thought it was worth sharing with everybody.
Thanks, Michelle. All right, anybody else?
In our group, John shared with the idea of that he's building on sharing his farm with others and sharing a selling a farm experience. And I thought that was pretty cool because I mean, I people want to be there are people that have never touched a cow before, much less milked one. And if he can sell that experience and have farm tours and um, give people an experience and then collaborating with other farms in the area, like an alpaca farm or an emu farm or anyone else that has something similar, that they could do like a whole day tour of different farms. I thought that was a really good idea. It never crossed my mind um, to market with other farmers so that they could come from 10 to noon at my place and then 1 to 3 at their place and just make a whole day of it and then collaborate and market that way. That was a really great idea.
Yeah, that's a phenomenal idea. And I've hosted some of those. Even in North Carolina, we have I forgot what the actual name of it is, but there are about, I think, 20-ish farms, maybe close to 30 within the Chapel Hill area of North Carolina. Chapel Hill, like the Rams, Tar Heels. And they do a farm tour that I was a part of a few years back where people would literally spend the whole day touring, at least 5 farms out of the 30 farms within that day or within that weekend. So it was a really good experience for a lot of people. A lot of people were able to make on-farm sales through that. It's important that we have to go to a farmer's market and waste your time. Anyways, I'm gonna go up on soapbox about farmers markets. And yeah, it's a really good way of creating community awareness and engagement. That's where I think a lot of farmers fail at is they're so focused on a product that they forget that they need to be able to connect with their community and what their community needs are, right? A lot of people have, like Kimberly, like you said, have not touched a cow before in their entire life. A chicken, a pig, emu, iguana, right? They haven't touched animals in their entire life, maybe except a cat or a dog. So for them to actually have that experience, it's creating core memories. And that's one thing I tell people is like, I want to be etched into your brain. When you think about, eating good food, I want you to think about me first. When you think about what farm you want to go to, I want you to think about me first, right? And so what can I do to create memories with you that remind you to come back to me? Not weird, not trying to be weird, not trying to be manipulative, but it's just psychology. The more memories I can create with you on the farm, the better, more likely you are to not just be my customer, but remain my customer. This is part of the reason why I tell people don't just sell raw product. Do field days, right? Do butchery classes. Do farm table dinners, right? And the pricing might be different. I got one client out in Washington State, and she charges $150 a plate and sells out 50 ticket event, sells out within 48 hours. sometimes within 24 hours. That is a lot of money to sell out. Now, her expense is she has a chef that will come in and prepare everything, but she's still profiting, right? The first two farm table dinners, all the equipment used to and that will continue to be reused for every event, it got paid for within two dinners. You can do that too. Doing the butchery class, again, like I mentioned a few weeks ago, when it comes to cattle, you can charge between $250 and $1,000, right? It's a different experience. It's not like butchering chickens. That is essentially easy, very easy to do. Butchering pigs, a little complicated. I actually say Dexters are easier to butcher than pigs are, but we can debate on that. Um, so creating that experience is going to be really important. One thing that I leveraged was, hey, if you're interested in the farm table dinner, great. If you want to go meet the cow that we're going to be eating, meet the pig that we're going to be eating, meet the chickens that we're going to be eating, come to the butchery demo the morning of and participate in that. I'll give you a $10 discount, right? So now not only am I creating another experience, another memory with that person, I'm also incentivizing them to do it, and I'm giving them a discount, a 10% discount, not $10, 10% discount to where they're they're less likely to resist. I'm creating less friction. I'm giving them more of an in to experiencing yet another memory with me. So again, think about that. Think about how can I create experiences and memories with my clients, with my customers, not just how can I sell them a raw product. That is boring. That is lame. And if you go that route, it's going to take you about 10 years before you can be successful. We got people who are doing agritourism and agroeducation, and within 5 years, they have become successful and sustainable financially. You don't have to play the long game by selling just raw meat or by selling seed stock. You can play the short game by creating experiences for your community or your greater community if you're an hour, maybe even 2 hours away from a major city. All right, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. Anyone else got something they want to share? Let's
Well,
hear from
we're very excited about the idea of the whole experience thing. The last year or so, we've been throwing around, bringing in pumpkins and having, like a fall fest out. We have about an acre out in front of the house on the main road and have people come in and have a little pen with the chickens and the cows. And we're eventually getting ducks and pigs. And so, if that's where the revenue comes in, that's the route we'll go. But I guess that's all I have to say.
I'm sorry about that. She's covering for me. I'm sorry. But Michelle had some really good things when we got in there, and John was right on with where we are. The questions tonight were right on. Grow slow. Our deal was to get in to feed ourselves healthy, our family, and then our friends. And now we're at that verge where we can start taking it out to other people. And that's where we start getting a little bit scared. Like we talk about pigs and ducks, and I had to dig a little duck pond and that kind of stuff. But the experience is, I, I was thrilled with what John said about that. The experience that people want to have, I think, overshadows a lot of that stuff because we can't produce enough cows and enough meat to be able to be profitable. We can have a lot of fun, but throw in some of the other fun, and all of a sudden we can make some money.
Amen, brother. Amen. Have fun making money. It don't gotta be hard. It does not have to be that hard. I appreciate y'all. That was really good. All right, looks like we are over time. My apologies. So we're gonna wrap it up. Before I make any closing remarks, ADCA board, did y'all have any final remarks or reminders for your audience?
No, I think we're good. You all are getting our wrap up summaries or recaps, and I think hopefully you're all finding that helpful. I'll keep doing that as we go along, taking notes.
Good. Thanks, Kimberly. Um, Sweet. Well, I hope y'all have a safe night. And some of y'all are probably eating dinner. I hope you have a good little dinner. And I will see y'all next week. And we got a couple more weeks. We're going to go into early November. Yeah, if you have found this helpful, insightful, just being able to be in community, talk, brainstorm a couple of ideas, learn from each other. Definitely invite a friend. We want as many people. This is for Dexter, someone say out of the context of Dexter, or people who are interested in Dexter, whatever. Invite them. We want to be able to hear what they have to say and also create an opportunity for learning for them as well. So with that, I will pass. I hope you have a good night, and I want to stop the recording.